कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशिष्मद्विवेंकटेश अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshughavanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishtavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्तकांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today morning we are reciting 4th canto, 18th chapter, text number 9 and 10. Vatsam kalpaya me veera येनाहं वत्सला तव भोक्ष्ये क्षीरमयान् कामान् अनुरूपं च दोहनम्। वत्सं कल्पय मे वीर येनाहं वत्सला तव भोक्ष्ये क्षीरमयान् कामान् अनुरूपं च दोहनम्। वत्सं कल्पय मे वीर येनाहं वत्सला तव भोक्ष्ये क्षीरमयान् कामान् अनुरूपं च दोहनम्। अल्पं येनाहं वत्सला तव भोक्ष्ये क्षीरमयान् कामान् अनुरूपं च दोहनम्। वत्सं कल्पय मे वीर येनाहं वत्सला तव वत्सं कल्पय मे वीर येनाहं वत्सला तव भोक्ष्ये क्षीरमयान् कामान् अनुरूपं। Mataji's. Oh, there's one more shloka along with that. Dogdharam cha mahabaho bhutanam bhuta bhavana annam ipsitam urjasvat bhagavan vachate yadi. Vatsam, a calf. Kalpaya, arrange. Me, for me. Veera, O hero. Yena, by which. Aham, I. Vatsala, affectionate. Tava, your. Dhokshye, shall fulfill. Kshiramayan, in the form of milk. kaman, desired necessities, anurupam, according to different living entities. Cha, also. Dohanam, milking pot. Dogdharam, milkman. Cha, also. Mahabaho, O mighty armed one. Bhutanam, of all living entities. Bhutabhavana, O protector of the living entities. Annam, food grains. Ipsitam, desired. Urjavat, nourishing. Bhagavan, your worshipable self. Vanchate, desires. Yadi, if. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O great hero, protector of living entities, if you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, you should make arrangements to bring a calf suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I will be very much affectionate towards my calf, your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. These are nice instructions for milking a cow. The cow must first have a calf, so that out of affection for the calf, she will voluntarily give sufficient milk. There must also be an expert milkman and a suitable pot in which to keep the milk. Just as a cow cannot deliver sufficient milk without being affectionate to her calf, the earth cannot produce sufficient necessities without feeling affection for those who are Krishna conscious. Even though the earth's being in the shape of a cow may be taken figuratively, the meaning herein is very explicit. Just as a calf can derive milk from a cow, all living entities, including animals, birds, beasts, reptiles, aquatics, can receive the respective foods from the planet Earth, provided that human beings are not asat or adritavrata, as we have previously discussed. When human society becomes asat or ungodly or devoid of Krishna consciousness, the entire world suffers. If human beings are well behaved, animals will also receive sufficient food and be happy. The ungodly human being, ignorant of his duty to give protection and food to the animals, kills them to compensate for the insufficient production of grains. Thus, no one is satisfied, and that is the cause for the present condition in today's world. So we are reading from the chapter Prithu Maharaja milks the earth planet. Mother Earth is speaking to King Prithu that if you are really desirous of supplying all the necessities for the different living beings, for example, for the cows they need grass, for the honeybees they need honey in the flower, isn't it? Similarly, for the human beings, you need grains and fruits and cereals and spices and medicinal herbs. So, for different creatures, they need different type of foods. For example, the camel requires cactus. So, all the animals have different type of foods. Like cow eats grass. So, she's saying that for the different type of creatures, the different type of foods can be arranged by me, provided two things she is saying. One is bring a calf. By having a calf, I'll be pleased to offer the milk. And then she's also saying, bring a pot that will be fit for holding the milk. This reminds me of the famous verse in Gita Mahatmyam. What that verse? Now, how it begins that verse? Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopala nandana partho vatsas sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat. So this verse says, All the Upanishads, Vedas, Vedic literature, everything put together is called as a cow. And the milk is the Gita Upanishad, the essence of the cow, essence of all the Vedic literature. Nobody needs to lament that I could not read the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Vedanta, all these things. I don't have time. If you have read the essence of all of them, what is the essence? Gita Upanishad. So Bhagavad Gita. And then he's saying, who is the calf who attracted the cow to give that milk? The calf is Arjuna. And who is the milkman? Krishna. And all the others, recipients of the milk are the devotees, other devotees who drink the milk. So they also have a patrata also. Following in the footsteps of Arjuna, they bring the vessel to collect the milk, and they drink the milk. So Arjuna definitely is an ideal calf for for Krishna to offer the milk, because Krishna says, Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Krishna says that you are a devotee, you are a friend, you are a friend of Krishna, devotee of Krishna. You are free from envy. Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave. All these qualifications he had. Therefore, he could taste the milk of the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, she is saying that the devotees of God are the calf here, mentioned in this analogy. Mother Earth feels very happy when she sees the children of God are aligned with Him. Just today morning, I was hearing a lecture of Prabhupada. Prabhupada, when he came to Pune to meet Bhari Malhotra, searching for a land, at that time, Prabhupada came across one mental asylum, lunatic asylum in Pune. They also have a rehabilitation hospital along with that. There Prabhupada saw one son was yelling at the father and shouting at the father, trying to attack him. So Prabhupada showed it to the devotees and said, just see, he is actually born from his parents, but he has become mad now. He is antagonistic to parents, trying to shout at them, yell at them, attack them. Prabhupada said, this is the same situation of the conditioned soul also. Prabhupada said, conditioned soul, Krishna says that, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtayasam bhavantiyaha tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradaha pita. He says that I am the father of all the creatures. I supply them food, I supply them knowledge, I supply them all kinds of holy items like the holy rivers and the holy books and the holy devotee, holy prasad, holy name, holy temples, holy divyadesams. I am sending all these things to get them back to my abode. But the living entities, having become mad, have gone antagonistic to me and they are attacking, trying to attack. And what is the reason for their attacking? They think, Prakriti kremanani gunakarmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma, he says. They have become vimudhatma now. So, vimudhatma means one who identifies with his body. He thinks, I am this body. Such foolish creatures, they claim that I am the supreme. I am in control. Everything is existing for my enjoyment. Why are you bringing God in? By my hard work, I have grown in my life. I am a self-made master. These kind of arrogant attitudes such living entities have. He says, like once Prabhupada was watching a dog with a leash held by the master. So the dog wanted to wander here and there, but the master pulled him with the leash and the dog had to go with him. So Prabhupada says that, just see, the dog is thinking he is independent, but actually he is not independent. He is controlled by the leash. If he is eating some garbage, he can be immediately dragged away from it. Similarly, all the living entities are controlled by Krishna by stringent laws of material nature. What we had, the pandemic all over the world, is one example of a stringent law. Similarly, there are many other stringent laws like old age, or disease, or death. Although scientists tried their best to give ventilators to prolong life, how much can a prolong life with ventilator? Even if you prolong life also, can a person on ventilator speak to you? Can he reciprocate with you? He is just existing like a vegetable. So with all their advancement in science and technology and medicine, they cannot prolong life by another 20 years, making a person very fit and healthy to move around. You will see that. So the body inevitably, irreversibly is led to death, and a person is ejected out of his sense gratification program and dragged to the graveyard to be burned into a pile of ashes, and they can't stop it. So the influence of time is coming on everybody in this world. So why should the living beings be so proud? And that pride is only because of their ignorance. So three type of ignorance in this world: Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamaguna, in which living beings are identifying themselves to be somebody what they are not. So therefore, they think they are the most important people in the world. Too much of self-importance. Modern day civilization is called as a I culture or I me mine culture. Everybody is like I-centered. And adding insult to injury, after the Facebook came, it made people even more bodily conscious, thinking of themselves as very important. Then, of course, the jiva is very important for Krishna, the part and parcel jiva. Krishna gives a lot of importance to jiva also, especially those jivas who are aligned with his will. You can see when Sudama goes to Dwaraka, Krishna worships him by putting him on his own seat. He feeds him prasad, massages his feet. You will see that. And Krishna treats his devotees with so much affection. When he went to Shrutadev Bahulashwa's house, how he treated them. How he treated Kubja, who offered him sandalwood pulp. So you will see that Krishna treats living entities with utmost affection and respect. But when they become mad, like this boy in the mental asylum, he is yelling at the father, shouting at the father, trying to beat up the father, attack the father. Actually, nobody will take the words of such a madman seriously. Pishachi paile, eta patichanna hai, it is said. So when a person is ghost haunted, he speaks like a fool. He speaks like a madman. Similarly, what is the ghost that has captured all the living beings in this world? It's the three gunas. Three guna ghost that has captured everybody. Everybody behaves foolishly, driven by one of the modes. And if somebody is in Sattva-guna, they are less covered. Rajoguna, they are more covered. Tamoguna, most covered. So, Krishna uses the word contamination in Bhagavad Gita. You will see that this was Purusha Prakridesto hi bhungte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasat yoni janmasu. He is saying, the living entity, assuming himself to be a Purusha or an enjoyer. See, there are two words, Purusha and Prakriti. The Jiva is Prakriti, but right now he is thinking himself to be Purusha. So, imagining himself to be Purusha, he is seated in this bodily machine, going around, imagining himself to be a very great personality. I saw a picture in Calcutta, one of the billboards. There is a cat watching his face into a mirror, but inside the mirror he is seeing a lion. So, what is the imagination of the cat? I have become a lion. He's not a lion. He's imagining himself to be a lion. And this happens to foolish people also. When they go to some movie and come back, they become attached to the hero or the heroine. And they speak like them, walk like them, keep hairstyle like them, correct now? They only look more foolish actually when they do that. Just imagining themselves, imitating those heroes, heroines. Similarly, the cat is imitating a lion. Similarly, the Prakriti Jiva is imitating the Supreme Purusha or Purushottama. He wants to boast himself to be that Purusha. Although he is powerless, he is dependent. In this material world, all the Jivas are mutually dependent on one another. And they are absolutely dependent on the Supreme Lord. You will see that when our parents beget a child, the child is totally dependent on parents. When the parents get very old, 80 years or 90 years, they become dependent on their sons and daughters. So they are mutually dependent. Like you see the cow or the dog or You see the horse, the camel, they're all dependent on man for feeding them fodder or some eatable and maintaining them, protecting them. They in turn also render service to man. In this way, in this world, the symbiotic relationships are created. Mutual dependence, you will see. No, nobody can claim to be independent in this world. But ultimately, all jivas are absolutely dependent on the Supreme Lord. Absolute dependence. So, somebody claims that I am independent. I don't need anybody. I can bring success on my own. So, that is actually a sign of madness. And all the more importantly, if somebody proclaims I am God and everything works according to my will, that is a topmost form of madness. So, and that madness becomes increased as one becomes more and more contaminated by the lower gunas. So, one interesting sentence I heard from Prabhupada. Prabhupada says that when contamination increases, the covering also increases proportionately. So, there are 5 types of coverings explained in scriptures. Avrita Chetana, the most lowest form of Chetana is called as Avarta Chetana, Sankuchi Chetana, Mukullit Chetana, Vikasit Chetana, and Purna Vikasit Chetana, 5 levels. So Avarta Chetana means it's covering so much covering, the living entity has become almost dull, Prabhupada says. Very, very dull. They are almost like a stone. You know, scientists even today don't know whether the virus is a crystal or virus is a living thing. Even today. Still the research is going on because the virus behaves like a crystal sometimes. Crystal means as if dead, just like this table. Other times it behaves like a living thing. So, because it is Avrita Chetana, it's covered. Amoeba, for example. It's extremely covered. You will find that. Or a starfish. The starfish look like a toy. Unless it moves, you will not know. Looks stiff like a star toy. It looks like that. There are many creatures like that. Actually, trees come one step higher. Avrita Chetana, Sankuchit Chetana means stunted consciousness. Stunted consciousness. So, the trees actually, if you pinch a tree, only your finger will pain. They don't feel any pain. So, the trees are stunted consciousness. Stavara, Jangama, 2 words are used in scriptures. Stavara means stationary. Jangama means moving. So, the trees are called as Sankuchit Chetana. Sankuchit means consciousness is there, but it is stunted. How do you know there is consciousness? You know, scientists have done research on how even a tree or a plant, they respond to the music. If you play very melodious music, they grow very nicely. If you play some very harsh, loud, metallic music, they dry up. And they have shown response to that over a period of time. Similarly, you keep a plant in a dark room and open the window, they move towards the window. So they are also responding to that. But still they are considered very dull because they don't move from one place to another. They can't speak. They are not as responsive as animals. If you, on the other hand, Avar Chetana, Sankuchi Chetana, Mukullit, little more blossomed. Mukullit means like a bud. You can see a dog or a horse. When you go near them, if they are trained at home, you know, they will stand up and they will shake hands. You will see that. Animals actually are responsive. You can see that. They are a little more blossomed in their consciousness. Like a dog knows if somebody picks up a stone, it will run away. But if a man goes with an axe to cut a tree will not run away. His consciousness is very stunted. Whereas a bird or a dog, their consciousness is more blossomed. They know that this fellow doesn't want me. I think he's going to hit me, so they run away. They are little more advanced consciousness. But far more advanced is human being, Vikasit Chetana, he has the right type of development in consciousness to study the scriptures. Atato Brahma Jignasa, that's what the scriptures say that. But if a man also does not study the scriptures, he remains ignorant. There is one verse, Chanakya also says, he says that these two eyes, if you don't read the spiritual literature, these two eyes are compared to two wounds on the face. They are as good as only wounds. Just as wound is only something which causes pain. Imagine you have a wound in the knee. It's going to cause pain when you walk. Similarly, these two eyes, if they are not used for studying the scriptures and awakening our transcendental wisdom, then these two eyes are called as the wounds. Good for nothing. Or good for only giving pain. Otherwise, they are useless. So, in this way, the human being is supposed to acquire knowledge. For what? That is also very important. If somebody has acquired a lot of Shastric knowledge, has become a Pandita, but has not become a devotee of God, then that knowledge also is good for nothing. There are many people who know the 4 Vedas by heart. They have studied for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. They recite the Vedas also. They do puja part and all that they do, many people. There are people who are scholars who have done their doctorate thesis in Gita or in Upanishads, or they have done in Vedanta. But there is no observable transformation of heart in their lives. They have earned a degree, but they are still going on with their sinful life. And they are living life like anybody else, any ordinary man in society. So, such knowledge, even if it is knowledge of Vedas, scriptures, but when a person doesn't become a devotee of God, that knowledge is compared to a dog's tail, according to Chanakya. Because a dog's tail, Chanakya says, is neither useful for driving away the flies or for covering the back. It is useless, it just stands like this. If you see the tail of a cow, it covers the back and it drives away the flies. A dog's tail is good for nothing. So, a scholar's knowledge without the scholar becoming devotee is like a dog's tail, he says. That means those who don't possess knowledge, they are condemned. Those who possess knowledge, but imagine God to be impersonal, or they don't utilize that knowledge to have a change of heart, and they don't become devotees of God, their knowledge is like a dog's tail. That is also useless. You can see that. So, from the Vikasit Chetana, one should go to Purna Vikasit Chetana. Fully blossomed consciousness, which is consciousness of a pure devotee. So, now the Mother Earth was seeing that the people on earth had become more and more atheistic. They were actually, like Prabhupada says one very powerful sentence here. He says, everyone can receive the respective foods from planet Earth, provided that human beings are not asat or adhrita vrata, as we have previously discussed. When human society becomes asat or ungodly or devoid of Krishna consciousness, the entire world suffers. If human beings are well behaved, animals will also receive sufficient food and be happy. How? For example, you know that annat bhavanti bhutani parjanyat anna sambhavaha yajñāt bhavati parjanyo yajña karma samudbhavaha evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha agayurendriyaramo mogham partas jivati. So in these two verses, Krishna is telling, annat bhavanti bhutani. In this world, all living beings subsist on anna, grains. We eat grains, and animals eat both grains and grasses. They eat. Prabhupada writes in one of the previous purport. Annat bhavanti bhutani. Bhutani means living beings. Parjanyat anna sambhava. How do we get anna? Not in the scientist laboratory. We get anna because of the parjanya, because of the rains. How do the rains come? He says, yajñāt bhavati parjanyo. When human beings align with God's will and worship Him, glorify Him, then the rains come. And then, how does the man does yajna? Then he does according to his karma. There are 4 karmas: Brahma karma, Kshatriya karma, Vaishya karma, Shudra karma. For Arjuna, Krishna told Arjuna, just as the Brahmanas are having a yajna kunda, which is mouth of Vishnu, and the yajnic fire, which is tongue of Vishnu. In that they pour the ghee as a ahuti, along with the chant of the mantra, Hare Om, and they pour it. And that is how Brahmanas offer sacrifice. And also Brahmanas do sacrifice by study of the scriptures, controlling the senses and mind, aligning with the will of the Supreme Lord, teaching the scriptures, and uttering the holy name. So this is how the Brahmanas please the Supreme Lord. And by spreading Brahminical culture all over the world. So Brahmana should give enlightenment. That is her duty. Then Lord is pleased. Similarly, Kshatriyas, for Kshatriya Arjuna, Krishna told, the enemy's chest is your yajna kund, and your arrow which you send, that arrow is the ahuti. He said, because Kshatriya karma is that. So that is the type of yajna you should perform by subduing the evil for which the Lord comes in this world. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. So the Lord's bahubal, or the bahu, or the Kshatriya strength, are the Kshatriyas. So they should act on behalf of the Lord, and then they should subdue the evil and protect the virtuous. Protect virtue, eradicate vice. That is Kshatriya karma. If they do that, again the Supreme Lord is pleased. And for Kshatriyas to do this, they have to do yajna through the Brahmanas also. And they should be advised by Brahmanas. Because Kshatriya has got strength. And a Kshatriya can become like a flood, good for nothing. A flood creates more havoc than good. So Kshatriya's passion should be guided by a Brahmana. Just like the water in the dam is very nicely able to be used or harnessed for the irrigation of the fields. But a flood cannot do any good. So Kshatriya's passion can be misused by him if he doesn't become guided by a Brahman. But when Kshatriya is guided by Brahmans, then the Brahman and Kshatriya combination is very good. Then they perform yajna. The Kshatriyas will protect the 5 classes of people, the children, old people, women, and Brahmanas and cows and all that. And he will also subdue the evil by the bow and arrow. There are many sections of Bhagavatam which talk about that. Parikshit Maharaj is taking bow and arrow and boarding his chariot when he came to know that there is some sinful activity going on. So he went to that spot where cow and bull were being beaten and he subdued Kali. Similarly, when Swayambhuva Manu, taking his bow and arrow on the chariot when he is moving, is glorified by Kardama Muni for his protecting the dharma. That is the duty of a Kshatriya, to protect the dharma. So by doing that, the Lord becomes very pleased because they are doing the same activity what Lord wants to do. Similarly, Vaishya, you see, in the Western world, the Vaishyas, those are supposed to produce grains, they produce lot of grasses, lot of grains, they feed the cows, but they don't call it cow protection. They call it cattle raising. Why they use the word cattle raising? Because the purpose of making the cows plumpy is to cut and eat them. Whereas Vaishya, his duty is to do 3 things. Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. Krishi means farming. Goraksha means cow protection. One devotee, translator, when Prabhupada had written Goraksha as cow protection, he had cancelled it and put cattle raising. And Prabhupada called him and said, how can you change this? He said, Prabhupada, in the West, people will not know what is cow protection. Prabhupada said, no, they don't know, but we have to teach them. We have to teach them. It is not cattle raising. Cattle raising for eating. This is cow protection for Go Puja, which cow should be worshipped. He said. So, in this Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam, and the trading also, how it was done. The trading was done like a barter system. Like, I give you wheat and you give me rice. Or I give you one item and then you give me another item. That's what they were doing. It was very simple. 25% of your profits you pay as a tax to the government, whatever you earn. Balance 75% is for you. And you can exchange things on barter. Somebody is giving ginger, pepper, spices, and you give them rice and wheat and other things. So people kept these things very simple in those days. Now, the trading has become such a money-making business where people want monopoly. People want seeds which will not reproduce in future. So they are biomedical fellows are doing this genetically modified food where they are cancelling the female component in the seeds. And when you sow those seeds, it will yield one crop. But the seeds coming from that crop will only have the male component. So you cannot reuse the seed. You know that? Yeah. Now out of the 100% seeds in the world, 30% they have already done that. Other 70% if they do, they are also saying that if you eat such foods where this female component is cancelled, that kind of genetically modified foods and all, the result would be that man, woman, they get infertility also because they are meddling with this thing. Yeah. So why the commercial fellows are doing that? Because they want to have the control of the seeds. A farmer will use the seed once. If he wants seed again, he has to go and purchase. So they want to make money. Just like the bottling companies, they purchased certain portions of the river where they can take the river water and use it for bottling companies and they can sell water. Otherwise, anybody can go to the river and drink water. Now you have to purchase water. And you can't go near the river. There are electric wires, barbed wires and all that. You cannot go. So there is a very strict vigilance. It's a purchase property. So in this way, you will have to purchase air, purchase water, purchase food. And food also is meddled with by man. You can see all this is an example of exploitation. You can see that in nature. This is the kind of Vaishyas we have now, the modern times. I was under the wrong notion that in villages people are innocent. Simple. Actually, my assistant who used to cook for me, so he used to take vegetables from the village and cook directly. So I asked him, did you check whether they have put fertilizer and chemicals and all? No, Prabhu, they are all simple village people. They are innocent. They don't know anything. It's not like the city. Then I said, they are not innocent, you are innocent. Then because I asked our Govardhanako village farm one devotee about this, he immediately took out one video clip from the YouTube and showed me how even in villages, in order to make the lady's finger okra green, they dip it in green color chemical liquid. Similarly, the kaddu, what do you call that? Bottle gourd. It comes only this much size. They give oxygen injection to make it boop, make it very big. They are giving, and the farmer is telling, everybody is doing it, so we are also doing it. Otherwise, if we sell a small one, people don't buy. People want to see a very big one. And then he is also saying that we have a WhatsApp group amongst farmers. So everybody is doing that, 95% of them. And what comes as organic naturally may not look appealing to the eyes. But people want something appealing to eyes. Just like the mung dal, if you see, a shining golden color mung dal, people think it's very wonderful, you buy. But actually that's genetically modified. Otherwise, the regular mung dal will be very simple looking. Apple also. So, in this way, the modern day Vaishyas, you will find that Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam, instead of doing that, the cows are made plumpy to be killed. There is genetically modified foods coming for commercial purposes, multiplying the money. It's extremely dangerous world that we are living in now. So, therefore, Prabhupada is saying here in this, and also human being has become asat. That's the problem. When human society becomes asat or ungodly or devoid of Krishna consciousness, what is devoid of Krishna consciousness? They don't know how to put God in the center of their lives and how to worship Him, how to glorify Him. Actually, if you turn away from God or show your back to God, the result will be that man will become greedy. You will see that. If one is not interested in going to temple, hearing Ramayana, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, and one is not cleansing the heart by chanting the holy name, studying the sacred scriptures, then they don't have a goal of life. They don't have a purpose of life. And not having any spiritual purpose, then they only will have what purpose? Material purpose. And what is material purpose? Two things. Money making and sense gratification. And the money making is also for purchasing sense gratification. So ultimately only one goal. What is the goal? Sense gratification. That's all. That becomes the goal. And the sense gratification propensity comes out in varieties of ways, which I told you just now. Farmers want to exploit, doctors want to exploit, teachers want to not teach in the school and college, they want to take tuition and make a lot of money. Many of the educational institutions are started not for the noble thought of educating children with character, they are being started for business purposes. Education has become a big business now. Tuition centers have become a very big business. Many teachers, professors are earning 1 lakh, 2 lakh per month. It has become a business. Medical field has become a business. Uh, For that matter, even temples can become a business. Even religious organizations can become a money-making business if those organizations don't have sincerely, seriously practicing devotees of God who keep God in the center of their life. They live only for God's pleasure. They give only to please Him, serve Him. And such genuine sadhus will be fed up with this commercial thing, money making business. We are not here in a spiritual organization for just making money, stocking money, and enjoying life. We are here to cleanse our own heart and cleanse the heart of people who come to the temple by teaching them the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna mantra, teaching them the Vedic literature, telling them the truth. How God is the pivot of the world, Krishna is the pivot. Everything, yasmin tushtam jagat tushtam. When He is satisfied, then all living beings will be truly satisfied. And that was seen in the Yudhishthira Maharaja's time. Kamam bavarsha parjanyah sarva kama dughamahi shishichusma prajan gavah payaso udasvatir muda. This is the reign of Yudhishthira Maharaj, when the cows were all running hither and thither, happily smiling. Their udders were full with milk. And milk was dripping from the udder on the ground, and the mud was mixed with that milk, it is said. So, and not only that, even the nature was so pleased with King Yudhishthira that she was also paying tax to the king, it is said. Not only people paid tax, even nature was paying tax. What tax the nature was paying? Rains were coming at appropriate times. The temperature of the sun was not very hot. People were not getting diseases at all. Everybody was very hale and healthy. And grains and fruits and cereals were all growing in abundance. And the children were obedient to their parents. The women were chaste. The men were protective. And there was prosperity in every respect, which means the gold and silver and diamond were profusely available in the mines. Wherever you turn around, you see signs of prosperity in Yudhishthira Maharaj's time, because Yudhishthira was such a pure devotee of Lord that by his mere presence at the top, ruling the world, in complete alignment with Krishna's will, the whole world flourished like Vaikuntha. Therefore, sometimes people talk about Rama Rajya or Yudhishthira Maharaj kingdom. So, because when a king becomes completely transparent via media of the Supreme Lord, he has no agenda to enjoy independently. He considers himself a servant or a representative of Lord, just put for coordinating the resources and gifts of God for the welfare of the people. The most important welfare is the spiritual welfare, because if people are not taught the spiritual knowledge, even in Bhagavatam you will see there is a verse which says, Mangalaya cha lokanam kshemaya cha bhavaya cha. So bhavaya means material welfare. Kshemaya means liberation from sufferings. And Mangalaya means love for God. All three should be awarded to the jivas. We should teach living beings how to love God and be peaceful, not harm the other living beings. And also for them to live a life free from sufferings, they should, I saw one devotee with a t-shirt today morning. He said, live echo, leave ego. Nice statement it was, right? Who is that? Yeah, he has a t-shirt. Live echo, leave ego. So what does it teach? Live echo means live in alignment with God's plan for us as taught in the scriptures. Don't go against nature. Nature is mother. Don't go against nature. And leave ego means don't quarrel with other living entities. They are all children of God. Live with the principle of unity with all living beings, while living a life in alignment with God. That's the meaning actually. So, in this way you will find Yudhishthira Maharaja's kingdom was so prosperous. Why am I telling that? Because we also should quote examples of prosperity. And what was the what are the basic principles that brought about that prosperity. In that purport, Prabhupada writes, modern man is so foolish. He is thinking that his prosperity is in big industries and brothels and liquor shops and clubs, casinos, slaughterhouses. Like that Prabhupada is saying, what is the need for flesh and fish and liquor and cigarettes and industrial commercial products and consumables? What is the need for all these things when God has given through nature so many gifts like the milk and the fruits and the cereals and the grains and the flowers, and also all the building materials He has supplied, all the metals He has supplied for making ornaments, and all that is needed for a happy civilization is provided by Lord Himself. We don't have to create artificial products. And also Prabhupada says there in that purport that by man's artificial arrangements, man cannot become happy. Today you will find the big industrial expansion has made the city life hellish, because all the places people are rushing to the cities for money making, and not for man making or character building. So money becomes the central goal. Money becomes God for people, and God is shelved aside, forgotten. So such a society can never be happy, and that is the reason why Earth was refusing to give all these grains. And now she is giving him the clue. That means there should be devotees of God who are aligned with His God's will. And then she's also saying, bring the pot. And then there is a capable king at the top now, Prithu Maharaj. So he is going to institute Varnashrama Dharma and, Bhagavata Dharma. You will see that when he calls all the citizens, the very first thing Prithu Maharaj taught them, he told them, my dear citizens, look at the world around. People, somebody is handsome, somebody is ugly, somebody is rich, somebody is poor, somebody is healthy, somebody is sick. Why this disparity? Because everybody is carrying their own fruits of their karma. If they are carrying the fruits of their karma, the karma awarder should be at the top. When you say good luck or bad luck, there should be a luck awarder. In a company also, you have a promotion awarder or a demotion awarder, or somebody fires somebody from the company. These things don't happen by chance. There is somebody awarding these things. That's how Prithu began. He preached very powerfully to citizens. And he said there is Supreme Lord Vasudeva who creates this world, maintains all the 8.4 million species of life, without whose presence the world cannot, not even a blade of grass can move. And pleasing Him is the goal of life. And all of you, he told the citizens, according to your swabhava, you should adopt a particular dharma, like Brahma karma, or Kshatriya karma, Vaishya karma, Shudra karma, and then offer the fruits of your work to the Supreme. Sve sve karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha swakarma hanirataha siddhim yata vindati tachino yataha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana atam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. So there is a college in Pune called Vishwakarma Institute of Technology. So their slogan in the entrance of the college you will find, they say, Swakarmanatam Abhyarchya. That is their slogan. That means by your work, you please God. That means offer the fruits to God. That's the slogan they have. In IIT Bombay, they have another slogan, Jnanam Paramam Dhyayam. So the slogans are very good, but we have to also live according to their slogans. So there should be courses which teach what the slogan means also. Correct? No? In India, many people keep some slogans from the scriptures. They have some attraction for Sanskrit. That is a good beginning. But we also should teach the children the meaning. Swakarmana, tam abhyarcha. By our karma, we should please Lord Vasudeva. So that same thing what Krishna said in Gita, Prithu Maharaj taught to his citizens. Today is a very important day. It is incorporation. You can only read. Take the mic. It is incorporation of ISKCON society today that happened in the West. You can take that section and read it. You all can hear it.
This is from Leela Amrit, Volume 2, Breaking Grounds.
Like this.
We shall call our society ISKCON. Prabhupada had
little away. Yeah.
playfully when he first coined the acronym. He had initiated the legal work of incorporation that spring while still living on the Bowery. But even before its legal beginning, he had been talking about his International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so it had appeared in letters to India and in the Village Voice. A friend had suggested a title that would sound more familiar in Westerners: International Society for God Consciousness. But Prabhupada has insisted Krishna consciousness. God was a vague term, whereas Krishna was exact and scientific. God consciousness was spiritually weaker, less personal. And if Westerners didn't know that Krishna was God, then the International Society for Krishna Consciousness would tell them by spreading his glories in every town and village. Krishna consciousness was Prabhupada's own rendering of a phrase from Srila Rup Goswami's Padmavali, written in the 16th century. Krishna Bhakti Ras Bhavita. To be absorbed in the mellows taste of executing devotional service to Krishna. But to register ISKCON legally as a non-profit tax-exempt religion required money and a lawyer. Carl Jürgens had already gained once some experience in forming religious, political, and social welfare groups. And when he had met Prabhupada on the Bowery, he had agreed to help. He had contacted his lawyer, Stephen Goldsmith. Stephen Goldsmith, a young Jewish lawyer with a wife and 2 children and an office on Park Avenue, was interested in spiritual movements. When Carl told him about Prabhupada's plans, he was immediately fascinated by the idea of setting up a religious corporation for an Indian Swami. He visited Prabhupada at 26th 2nd Avenue and they discussed incorporation, tax exemption, Prabhupada's immigration status, and Krishna consciousness. Mr. Goldsmith visited Prabhupada several times. Once he brought his children, who liked the soup the Swami cooked. He began attending the evening lectures, where he was often the only non-hippie member of the congregation. One evening, having completed all the legal groundwork and being ready to complete the procedures for incorporation, Mr. Goldsmith came to Prabhupada's lecture and kirtan to get signatures from the trustees for the new society. July 11. Prabhupada is lecturing. Mr. Goldsmith, wearing slacks and a shirt and tie, sits on the floor near the door, listening earnestly to the lecture, despite the distracting noises from the neighborhood. Prabhupada had been explaining how scholars misled innocent people with non-devotional interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita. And now, in recognition of the eternity's respectable presence, and as if to catch Mr. Goldsmith's attention better, he introduces him into the subject of the talk. I will give you a practical example of how things are misinterpreted. Just like our president, Mr. Goldsmith. He knows that expert lawyers, by interpretation, can do so many things. When I was in Calcutta, there was a rent tax passed by the government, and some expert lawyer changed the whole thing by his interpretation. The government has reneged a whole law because their purpose was foiled by the interpretation of the lawyer, of this lawyer. So we are now not out of foiling the purpose of Krishna, for foiling the purpose of Krishna, for which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. But unauthorized persons are trying to foil the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, that is unauthorized. Alright, Mr. Goldsmith, you can ask anything. Mr. Goldsmith stands And to the surprise of the people gathered, he makes a short announcement asking for signers on an incorporation document for the Swami's new religious movement. Prabhupada, they are present here. You can take the address now. Mr. Goldsmith, I can take them now? Yes. Prabhupada, yes, you can. Bill, can you give your address? And Raphael, can you give yours? Sorry. Bill, you can give your address. And Raphael, you can give your address. Give yours. And Don, Roy, Mr. Jeans. As the meeting breaks up, those called on to sign as trustees come forward, standing around in the little storefront, waiting to leave cursorily through the pages the lawyer had produced from his thin attache, and to sign as he directs. Yet, not a soul among them is committed to Krishna consciousness. Mr. Goldsmith meets his quota of signers, a handful of sympathizers, with enough reverence toward the Swami to want to help him. The first trustees, who will hold office for a year until the first annual meeting of the corporation, and Michael Grant, who puts down his name and address without ever reading the document, Mike's girlfriend Jen, and James Green. No one seriously intends to undertake any formal duties as trustees of the religious society. But they are happy to help the Swami by signing his fledgling society into legal existence. According to law, a second group of trustees will assume office for the second year. They are Paul Gardner, Roy, and Don. The trustees for the third year are Carl Yearens, Bill Episton, and Raphael. None of them know exactly what the half a dozen legal-sized typed pages mean, except that Swamiji is forming a society. Why? For tax exemption, in case somebody gives a big donation, and for other benefits an official religious society might receive. But these purposes hardly seem urgent or even relevant to the present situation. Who is going to make donation? Except maybe for Mr. Goldsmith, who has any money. But Prabhupada is planning for the future, and he is planning for much more than just tax exemptions. He is trying to serve his spiritual predecessors and fulfill the spiritual prediction of a spiritual movement that is to flourish for 10,000 years in the midst of this age of Kali. Within the vast Kali age, a period which is to last 432,000 years, the 1960s are but an insignificant movement.
And like this, today is the most auspicious day. Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON society. So when it was about to be completed, Mr. Goldsmith told Prabhupada that the four regulative principles may be difficult for the Westerners to follow, especially the principle of no illicit sex, because they have a culture of free mixing. So maybe you can cancel that one thing. Other three are all right, he said. Prabhupada said, I have not come here to please the Americans, Prabhupada said. I have come here to teach the scriptures and I cannot compromise on that, he said. And so Prabhupada went ahead with that, with all the four regulative principles. And you can see that how the people who are forming the ISKCON society in the very early days were not even committed. But Prabhupada's confidence in the Acharya's mercy, Prabhupada's confidence in the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prithivate Achadya Nagaradi Gram Sarvadar Prachara Hoy Bumoranam. You can see that in this incorporation that happened today, 1965-66. So subsequently, ISKCON picked up as time progressed. But Prabhupada putting his lotus feet in America, or Prabhupada making in the incorporation of ISKCON society, these are all very important historical dates that give us an opportunity to think about Srila Prabhupada's courage and confidence in a foreign land, and making the bold step to propagate Krishna consciousness. We can take a drop of his courage into our hearts and do something good. Prabhupada said, I am one old man, I am doing so much. How much more you youngsters can do, Prabhupada said. So we can remember Srila Prabhupada today and recommit ourselves to the ISKCON society, that we will make one extra effort to make his dreams come true. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Thank you very much.